I'd love for each of you just to give a quick introduction of yourself. Who are you, and why are you here today? What should we know about you?
I'm Amanda. I work at Doc Martens. I'm here today because we work really closely with Attentive. I've been at Doc Martens about 3 years. We've been using Attentive that entire time. So I'm the senior manager for our email and SMS program, work very closely with the CRM team. Something you should know about me, well, we were just chatting, and my go-to karaoke songs are anything pop punk, and we were talking about how we're excited for the revival, so I think that's crucial you know that about me.
Oh, I love this so much. Yes, it's true. It's true. So my name is Scott Beyer. I look after retention marketing for Allbirds. I've been in my entire career in some capacity working in digital marketing for brands, mostly in the footwear and apparel space. I am here because Ryan asked me to be here. I don't know where'd you go? Yeah, there he is. Everyone loves you, man. Like I feel like every time I walk in this room, it's like, oh, Ryan Garrow. Yeah, you're like a legend. But yeah, I'm here because Ryan asked me to, and yeah. And I'm just excited about CRM and talking about it and trying to pass on some wisdom where I can.
Thank you.
My name is Petey Turno. I lead agency success over at Attentive. I'm here today because we work very closely with Logical Position as well as one of our signature agencies. Little bit about me. Let's see. On my free time, I'm a pizza chef.
All right.
Make pizzas.
That's a
Nice.
prove it. It's a prove it situation.
I make pizzas.
We're gonna
so
want some
no one's
pizza.
getting a pizza today though, but maybe one day.
Dude,
Deal.
we got to talk. I love making pizza.
All right. I love it. Making connections. All right. Now, I am going to dive in right quick into our questions here and hopefully save some for the end if you've got one from the audience here. But jump in if you feel like this one speaks to you. When you're explaining your email and SMS success to your CEO, what's the one metric you lead with and why? I like it.
Should I go first?
Mics to mouths. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things you had on your slides a couple of seconds ago that just really spoke to me in a big way was send volume should not outweigh RPR, right? And so when I was thinking about success metrics that I like to bring to my CEO, RPS, RPR, efficiency, and basically how well are we driving revenue on the capacity that we have for email volume. It speaks to revenue, which all CEOs like to talk about. It's like the one thing they like to talk about, right? It also talks to how well we are using our resources. So how much we pay for messages, obviously, is paltry compared to how much we invest in media dollars, as an example. But we still need to be able to say, hey, we're investing in an ESP, we're investing in a tech stack and CRM, we're investing in all of our time. Here's how much money we're making on those efforts. It's also really easy to compare time over time. So we can look at RPS or RPR in this month versus the same month last year and say, hey, based on all the things we are doing differently, here's how much more efficient we are right now. Or
Not we spent 10 million more emails.
yeah, exactly. So like this idea that, hey, because a lot of old school CRMs would say, hey, the bigger your list size, the more email you send, the more money you make, right? And like, I think to a degree that's true, but it's not really telling the whole story.
Not a guarantee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I spent the last 6 months at Allbirds overseeing the media side as well. And the one thing I took away from that experience was you advertising folks love to talk about ROAS. And so like our equivalent in CRM really, and it should be, is RPS, right? And that's how I like
Can
to
you remind the audience what RPS is?
revenue percent. So RPR, revenue per recipient, RPS, revenue percent. They're similar, but at the end of the day, it really just speaks to the efficiency of the amount of email.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Pete, were you jumping in on that one?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was
Ditto?
gonna
Is
make
that just a ditto, or
I was going to make that ROAS analogy, and especially with a CEO, is every CEO, ROAS is a huge conversation just because it's so important to their business on the money that their marketing spend, and revenue percent. Looking at it in that light with ROAS is the easiest way for them to really just digest that metric on whether it needs to be improved or they need to expand on it.
I love a good old-fashioned click-through rate. I think demand, super important. Click-through rate tells us a lot of the time if we're nailing segmentation, if people are clicking through, if we've got that layer down, that they're actually interested in the product. I think there's so much beyond that goes on with site journey, things like that with the customer, but click-through rate can really give us a good read on if we're targeting the right people, if we've got the right segments, if we're on the right track with everything that we're sending to people.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Well, who wants to walk us through your most profitable automation that isn't a welcome series or cart abandon? What makes it work? And what would you do differently if you built it again?
All right, I'll go. So I would say hands down win back. These are people that generally haven't bought from you, haven't expressed interest, and are, probably not going to come back without some sort of incentive. And I know it's kind of a dirty word to say discount, and I don't want to like sit here and advocate for like sending a bunch of discounts, but when you're talking about a cohort of people that are probably lost to the wind, and you can give them maybe a small incentive to come back and reinvigorate them with the brand, especially if you have new stuff to talk about that might make them more willing to become a more loyal customer. Like, say, for example, you're us and you're going to introduce a whole lot of new product, or in the process of introducing a whole lot of new product, which we currently are, yet we haven't done that for the past 6 to 9 months. We lost a lot of people in the past 6 to 9 months. Now's the time to say, hey, like, we know we lost you. We know we didn't give you exactly what you wanted over this time period. Here's, I don't know, $5, 15%, whatever it is that works and your finance person is going to be okay with. And you say, come back, check us out again, give us another try. And it tends to work, and it tends to over time actually be pretty profitable compared to giving a discount to someone else who probably would have bought otherwise.
You had me at win back because it assumes you're going to stop emailing people when they stop opening your emails, right? Or you're going to step back on SMS when they stop engaging, right?
Oh, bro, you were
yeah.
really speaking my language earlier with like,
Yeah.
don't email people who aren't engaging
We're
with
gonna
you.
hang
Like,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
Want me to read it again? Are you ready to jump in? I'll read it again. Walk us through your most profitable automation, that's not a welcome series or a cart abandon. What makes it work? And if you're going to do it again, what might you change? And we're totally letting Amanda jump in first.
All right. Well, I'm going to hard ditto that win back. I think that, that's a great opportunity for us to kind of re-engage and find out what people are interested in. One that we also do that I really love is our birthday journey. So that's just an opportunity for us to, again, offer a discount, but in a way that feels pretty personalized to them. So one challenge we have is just collecting that birthday data. I think a lot of the time, it's not the most organic to ask them for it at point of sign up. So that's the challenge we're facing. But the more that we grow that, the more that we see people come back, they're really engaged. I think on your birthday month, you're looking for the deals, you want to treat yourself. It all kind of works out, and I think is a really nice play, letting them know that we see them, we know when their birthday is, and that we're using their data to reward them. And that kind of reinforces a good practice, I think, in our channels.
Works.
I've got more. I got these all day. Okay,
Wait.
so post-purchase cross-sell is am I just, sorry, I'm taking like everything you're saying. I apologize.
You're on the brand side.
So post-purchase cross-sell, especially when you work for a company that has like complementary products. So like for us, I've spent a lot of my career in the footwear industry. What's something people generally buy with shoes? Socks, yes. So, and also, I think Ryan, you said this earlier today when you were like, hey, our shipping cost doesn't change a lot when we add XYZ additional product on top of the initial sale. Socks don't take a whole lot of packaging, right? So if you can throw a pair of socks in with a pair of shoes, like, we're just going to add revenue to that transaction, and it's not going to take a whole lot of extra logistical effort or cost on the ship side. So bundling would be that example, but then post-purchase cross-sell, someone who just bought something, knows your brand, they're going to be very invested in what you have to say very quickly after they bought that product. And so you might be able to say, hey, like, did you buy a pair of shoes? Can we get you into a t-shirt, a pair of socks, a complimentary product, etc. I also worked at a company called backcountry.com, large, big outdoor retailer. And there was a ton of opportunity based on the category to cross-sell different products after the initial purchase. So like bikes, for example. You sell a bike, people are going to go buy helmets, right? Glasses, shoes, whatever else. This boils down to data, and you need to figure out what the most likely next purchase product is after they buy product A, B, or C. And then just go build an automation that talks about those products to people that bought that initial product. It's not really that complicated, but it works pretty well.
Yeah, Pete.
A brand that stands out to me that actually does a really good job at this is True Classic. I was reading something to where they were trying to optimize their post-purchase cross-sell. And when everybody hears True Classic, what do we think of? T-shirts, right? Like, that's what they're known for. So they weren't seeing the success in their post-purchase flows that they were seeing because they were trying to sell people on t-shirts. Well, if you just bought a pack of 15 t-shirts, probably don't need any more t-shirts for the time being. So like talked about with data, they were actually finding that those first-time buyers that came and bought 5 or more t-shirts, they were actually coming back and buying bottoms because now they sell pants, they sell shorts. And they tested post-purchase pushing bottoms, and their conversion rates skyrocketed. And they didn't even know that they had this gold mine sitting on there with just easily looking at their data, because it's easy to go, somebody buys t-shirts, obviously they want more t-shirts. It's not wrong, but it's not that true if they just made a purchase of t-shirts. You see something similar with jewelry brands too, run into that issue a lot. Somebody buys a necklace. Yes, they do like necklaces. They may buy a necklace again down the road, but if they just bought one, they may need earrings, for example. So just really looking at that data, it's really easy to find, but a small tweak like that could make the biggest difference in your profitability.
Yeah, and I just want to echo. I mean, you're talking about customer journey, right? Like we should make it easier for our customers to take the next step with us as a brand. So lay that out for your customer base. Give them the journey so that you're telling them this is what you want next. Whether it's shoes or whether it's I bought a climbing harness, you know what? I'll spend the $12 on a new chalk bag. You know, it's like you've made my life easier. I'm excited about this, and I didn't have to work for it, right? Tell your customers what to buy. Just don't tell them you're telling them, right? Bring it up. Make it feel natural. All right. SMS versus email for abandoned cart. When do you use which, and how do you decide the timing between them? Like, what's your actual sequence today? Because that's a multi-million-dollar question there. What's your actual sequence, knowing that you're not scripting it for everyone? You're saying this is what we have determined works best for our brand.
Can I be the guy that says it depends?
Yeah, I think that's what we all
Yeah,
would want to
correct.
say. So now tell
Yeah.
us what it depends on.
Okay, so right now, we are leaning harder than ever before on automation in SMS. And you're gonna hate this, Jeremy, but right now we don't actually have any cross-channel automation and orchestration in place. I know it's so sad.
You know what? You have so much opportunity in front of you. I can only be excited for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and it's very true. But we're still in the sort of early stages of our SMS journey, right? So we're spending a lot of time focused on building our file, and trying to determine whether or not individual customers want to be communicated with via email or SMS. And that's kind of like the first stage of the journey I found. And so we don't have this sort of like very specific, only abandoned cart via SMS or only abandoned cart via email. We're doing a lot of testing and trying to figure out, based on what cohort, what product sold, which one makes the most sense in what scenario. And oftentimes it just depends. So I don't have like a hard answer.
I agree with you. It depends. And so the end result is going to be a spider web of an automation.
Yeah.
And you don't get every one of those touch points. You get the ones that are going to have the most impact. And that's
Right.
what you're figuring out.
Yeah, but I want to double down on something you said, because I do really agree that at the end of the day, this is going to be a task that AI and sort of machine learning and decisioning from those tools will ultimately lean on for to make that decision, because ESPs, if they haven't already, will get to a point where they can determine better than we as humans can what is best for what customer based on their
I'm
prior
banking on it.
engagement.
Yeah.
And like for you ESPs in the room, like just know that on the brand side, we expect that from you, and we need that from you. I've pushed our partners at Iterable for that more times than I can count. And I know that they're working on it, but it's hard, and I'll give them that. But knowing that if you're going to keep our SMS and our email business, you need to be able to determine pretty accurately whether or not a customer wants one or the other.
I could not agree more with Scott, and it's reassuring to know that we're all in the same place with that. We also don't have a super sophisticated way of choosing who's getting what in terms of email or SMS, being on two separate platforms. I think the best that we can do is kind of look at who's subscribed to what, when, and try and push them through those channels, seeing what they've responded to in the past, how they signed up, how they joined us, how they got there, and then kind of figure it out that way. But that's a huge thing on our plates right now, is figuring out how to make that a little bit more seamless. I know as a user, I expect that, and yet it's really difficult to implement, I think, brand side. And so that's a challenge coming up that we're all tackling. And it feels like a lot of us are in the same space and just trying to get there.
Typically, from what we've seen from a data standpoint, with a multi-channel touch point for a flow like abandoned cart, emails always tend to perform earlier on in the journey, and then SMS usually tends to perform later on. Every brand's different. Allbirds can try it and not see that type of performance, but holistically, from what we see with multi-channel subscribers, email at first, and as time goes on, SMS tends to perform better, and also shorter timeframes between purchases, which that's also a metric we didn't talk about, is that time frame between purchase 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Shorter that window, the better too. We also see multi-touch points or multi-channel work best for that as well.
That's excellent. And that was a test. If you'd all said we have it figured out and this is the way to do it, then we would have cried, liar. All right. So then, beyond hi, Jeremy, give us a specific example of personalization that moved the needle for you when you use it, how you use it.
I can grab this one. And first, I'll share a fail because I always love at conferences when people are real. And maybe I grew up in the generation of fail videos, but that's really entertaining to me. So we recently, we have a customer growth team globally sitting, and they really were pushing for us to try a test with some AI images that pulled in first name into like a hero image in an email. And we're like, okay, like it feels a little old school, but we're down to test it. We've never done it before. Let's try it. So they had a group that did it for us. Huge flop on our end. We tested a really small segment for our win back just to try it, see what happened. We got a couple, that's being generous, kind of conversions off of that. And it was great, though. It was a great takeaway because for us, we have a really solid win-back journey in place that's based on personalization in smaller ways. I don't think it needs to hit you over the head. I think it's more about what are you looking at? What are you not looking at? What's your time frame? How long are you spending looking on stuff? Factoring all of that in is much more effective, and it doesn't feel as chic and cool and fun and new necessarily, but I think that it's a great place to just look and dig into those details when you're building a flow versus always having that flashier kind of like name. We use that in subject line. It works. I will say when we test, it doesn't do like incredible in performance with A/B tests. It's just something that I think people see a lot, but it's not necessarily the way to go forward. It's more about those things that you don't see and making sure that you're hitting the customer in the customer journey where they're asking you to without knowing that they're asking you to.
Can I ask, show of hands, how many people in this room have an email marketing or CRM team that's bigger than 2 people? All right, so the reason why I asked that, guys, is I've worked for tiny companies and I've worked for some of the biggest in the world. And the topic of personalization comes up at both. I'd like to think of personalization on the spectrum, where on one end you have very simple things, right? Your first name in the subject line, or very basic segmentation, like using RFM as an example, your recency, frequency, monetary value, and saying, hey, like if you are a recent customer, I am going to email you this, versus if you're a lapsed customer, I'm going to, right? That's like basic execution of email segmentation. On the other end of the spectrum, you have what will undoubtedly, mark my words, be the future of email marketing, which is we rely on like these kind of Skynet-esque technologies that are going to pick from a bank or a library of content what goes to what person at what time, what day, based on their previous affinities and engagement. I'm going to assume, and by the way, that technology exists today. I've used it before. And so when you ask Jeremy about like personalization technologies or approaches that work, they work really well, like scary well. But here's the thing. If you work for a company that doesn't have robust tech infrastructure, large amounts of people that can help you implement that sort of stuff, it's going to be difficult to get it off the full stop. So
Budget, right? I mean,
or
it's an
budget. Yeah,
investment.
it's expensive. So like I've used 2. I've used a company called Coherent Path that was eventually acquired by Movable Ink, and they turned it into their DaVinci product. I've also used another one called OfferFit. I have nothing but the best things to say about those companies. They do amazing work, but I worked for a couple of billion-dollar-a-year businesses that had large CRM teams and had the capacity to actually implement. This room is not going to be doing that anytime soon until ESPs can start to
Got some for you now.
can start to create the stuff that is easily used by smaller groups, and people that actually have their hands on levers can start to implement that technology in a very easy way. We're not going to be talking about that here. So your best bet right now is to try and lean in on basic segmentation approaches, learn as much as you can about RFM, try to create very, very reliable ways for your data to be segmented in those ways, build those segments in your DSP, and actually start to use them. You'd be surprised at how many email marketing teams I've encountered over the years don't actually have very basic segmentation implemented. And if any of you have questions about how you might do that at your company and want to talk to me, I'll be here all day and I'm happy to talk more about it.
Excellent. Pete?
No, I've got nothing. That's perfect.
Perfect. Well, because I know we just have a few minutes left, so I do want to open it up. We had a million more questions that I'm sure we could have gotten through if we had hours, but with just a few minutes left, are there any questions from the audience? And I'm going to bring the mic around. See you, Pete.
First things first, the two Pete's in the room look very similar. Just got to point that out. No, we're actually looking at segmenting our audiences more and more with Run Klaviyo and using that more. We have a few that we use pretty often, but I know we can get more detailed. I'm just curious with your brands, like, can you give me some examples of how you organize your audiences with your customers?
Yes. Let's see. So I think the most effective approaches that we have, being a footwear brand, right? We have people that buy women's products and people that buy men's products. So gender tends to be a pretty common. We have different styles of products. We also have different, obviously different styles of products, different material. So this isn't a shout out for Allbirds, but just to explain the situation we're in. We have people that buy wool products, people that buy canvas products, and people that buy what we call tree, or like eucalyptus fiber based, more breathable. And so people that buy one tend to usually stick within that product category or buy that same style, or women tend to buy women's products more often than not. So when we're segmenting our audience, we try to stick to, again, the core basics of RFM as best we can. But beyond that, try to stick to product, category, material, and gender.
Actually, I've got a follow-up question for you on that. Do you guys also segment on those same categories, but based on like engagement with certain products, but necessarily haven't purchased? No.
We should. But
Oh, okay.
no, that wasn't like a no, like I don't believe in that. That was a no that's like, yeah, you know, we're a 5-person team, and we have to pick and choose the things we can actually done. Actually, fun fact, someone called out Postpilot here. I don't know if there's a Postpilot person, but we actually just started. Yeah, they're great, right? We actually just started a trial or a initial sort of execution with Postpilot running direct mail. So like we have a really small team. Email is not the only channel, and SMS are not the only channel that we're trying to dive into. So when it comes to like really advanced segmentation, like we know we can and we probably should, but we have to pick and choose our battles, and we're finding a lot of incremental value from direct mail right now.
Well, talk about win-back personalization.
Dude, yeah.
Postpilot and direct mail is huge for that standpoint, keeping people engaged. So
If you guys haven't, that's a shout out for Postpilot. If you guys haven't checked it out, I would.
highly recommend.
Yeah, same for segmentation on our end. It can go as deep, really, I think, as you want it to go. We do a lot similarly, men, women, gender segments. We also have our persona segments that we lean on pretty heavily, trying to kind of categorize how people are shopping what. We do a lot with kind of engagement on site, how they're responding to like kind of what's going on, how they're shopping. We've tested a lot coming up with like new versus repeat shoppers and seeing how they perform. I think that's a really big area of opportunity for us, just because it's like we're still figuring out like our lifetime value for a customer. Honestly, like that's always changing. But once we get there, I think it's really important to start to see how we talk to those people differently, because I think you're just in such different headspaces, especially for something like shoes, where it's like you may not be purchasing, like you're purchasing a t-shirt, you're buying those like maybe once a year, you're purchasing some boots. We have other things though, and it's about how do we show that to the consumer who's just purchased versus how do we show someone new our whole breadth of products. So we really focus in on that new versus returning user. going forward. And then just kind of around also sale versus non-sale. That's a big one for us because they're so different, right, in how they operate. So we like to segment those out, especially in times of heavy promotion. We're kind of going through a little bit of an exercise right now where we've been really promotional, honestly, in the marketplace for a really long time, just based on what was going on. And so we're looking at those people and saying, like, how do we segment them out of some sense? We kind of guided them to behave a certain way. And now we're kind of going back to that full price premium mix and trying to figure out how to get that segment to come along on the journey with us, but knowing that they kind of engage in a certain way and they like to see certain content.
Buyers versus non-buyers for segments is actually very big. If your company is trying to do a play of protecting margins, I know what a lot of brands will do is they'll actually tweak offers for campaigns depending on if it is a non-buyer or a previous buyer. There's a psychological piece to it to get those non-buyers over the hump, but then there's also the piece of tailoring those offers based on those segments to help protect those margins so you're not over or under incentivizing, but you're still getting those conversions over the hump at a number that the company needs to see in order for that sale to be successful. And I know that that's very common with those different buyer versus non-buyer segments.
Yeah. Let's hear it for our powerhouse panel here, everybody. Thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. Excellent stuff.